And we are live, or at least we hope so. And we hope that we have some decent audio. We're just recovering here at the Howard Dare Studios from a failed attempt at the uh, at the previous podcast. Yeah, we had we had the whole studio set up, we had the stages set up and everything, but the sound went completely bad. So I've just set this up very quickly to kind of explain what went wrong. I'm not even sure. So we're still figuring it out over here. We were attacked by terrorists. I'm sorry. Allah Akbar. That's what they were screaming. So I'm just now coming in to test out. Let's see. I have to update some people here. Excuse me, people. I'm all alone here at the Howard Dare Studios. Yeah, just trying to explain to the people hanging out at the old chat, or so I think. And now I'm trying to find out if the new one has got decent audio here. I think I had too many sources. I was using my own encoder for the podcast, and I think I just asked too much of it. But it could have been something else, and I don't know. So far over here, I think I'm good, but I have to check with you guys. Yes, the audio is great. Thank you guys. Yeah, um, yeah. Here we are to Google Hangout chat now. So it turns out that doing a podcast and running the production, it's a little complicated. It's a little complex, and being able to do even two or three things at the same time. Being able to do one thing really well, halfway decent, is hard enough. Being able to juggle a few things, it's not easy. So, if you think that was bad, well, that was pretty bad. Okay. So the podcast before this one, libtards, social justice warriors, leftists are always wrong. uh, yeah, it wasn't as bad as that. So we live and learn, and I live and learn a lot, which can bring me to the title of seize the day, right? um I've been uploading a lot of news clips lately because I think they're important, and I wanted to come on and talk about them here, but I wanted to be able to play them and do things like that, and have some decent interaction. So that's what that was all about. That's what's going on there. So yeah, we're stuck. We're going live now. We have to completely improvise now. And you're just going to have to excuse me because I need coffee. I seem to run on caffeine now. Caffeine and sugar, not sugar itself. I'm not eating raw sugar. I'm taking it in the form of lemonade and other consumables. So that's what's going on in the background from time to time. So I'm not able to play my news clips. So I'm a little bummed. Yeah, I had a whole intro planned out for you guys. Oh, did you like that thumbnail? Yeah, I had a real nice thumbnail associated with the chat too. Um, another thing that I'm doing here, why it's not the worst thing in the world, is because this process of creating content and interacting with you guys is part of the process. In other words, it's part of the creation process. So it's kind of like being at a studio and you are there. There's no, commercials. You're there when everything's getting set up and the wires are getting connected and things like that. And when you have these unusual pauses, that's me thinking or just getting something done that I'm trying to keep off the microphone. I'm in the process of ordering a mixer for audio because right now I'm just working with an audio interface and bad connections. I think that might have been what the problem was on my previous attempt at a podcast. But according to the podcast before this one from last night, I'm able to play audio and video, right? And it's clean. And my audio can come over that. So I'm really excited about that. I can't do it tonight. I can't do it right now. But yeah, it's a technical possibility. And it was clean too, right? So upgrading the equipment, things like that. Bringing additional computers, CPUs online to have additional sources of media. Also, yeah, had a broken computer. Yeah, you know what the problem was? It was that little battery. The little battery inside on the motherboard that holds, the ROM information and stuff like that, system date and things like that. Yeah, it had just gone out. That's all. And I'd replaced like everything before it. You know what I mean? I like pulled out everything. Actually, the power supply was bad too. But yeah. but that battery was bad. So you check the simple and the easy solutions first. I've even had a situation where I, went into a client's office and, took the computer apart and, found out later that it was the cord, So you have to check all those things first. And I'm not exactly sure what went wrong with the other podcast, but the potential is there, ladies and gentlemen, right? We can have a real nice podcast working here eventually. I think though that my part might just be to sit in the background and to just control the stuff, because that's a job in and of itself, right? So I know some of you are wondering, well, when's he going to like start this podcast? And it's like, no, this is the podcast. I'm going to talk about some other things. We're going to talk about some of the news clips and, some of my upcoming video ideas, things like that. And, the idea that you have to take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you at every moment, because you don't know, right? So you can't even wait around for, the ideal opportune moment to do things. You have to deal with the situation you've got. And I think that a lot of it is a mental game. All right. So I know that a lot of you men, MGTOW, are angry and are feeling, like hopeless and this is like useless and you're pissed off. And I understand, right? I mean, of course I understand. But what if you having this type of an attitude, what if this was an intentional attack upon you? That's what I'm suggesting. That's the nature of the gynocentric system. That's the difficulty of going your own way. It's finding your own way. And it's realizing that, the way that you've been going is the way of someone else and of the system and of women and just the culture around you, because you want to like get along, get the approval of these people. And the system and the culture doesn't really care about you as an individual. So you have to, find your own way, and they're going to shame you and give you a hard time for doing it. And it's going to make the person, become all depressed and all frustrated and things like that. And I'm saying that you can't really do that. You don't want to do that because that's part of how you get attacked. So if you're dealing with somebody and they're fucking bringing you down and belittling you and giving you a hard time and they don't believe in the shit you're doing, don't listen to them. I've made some animations where it's just my, superhero character, the Blue Bolt. And he's just saying, and he's got some girl bitching at him, and he just cuts off her audio, and he says, look, it's a super power to be able to cut these people out. Because if you have to listen to the voices of the people around you, you're not going to develop any sort of skills. You are like a fighter going to the ring. Okay. And if you don't have people in your corner that are saying, hey, we're going to go get them, this is our strategy. You're ready for this. You're trained. You're, tough. You're lean. You're mean. We're going to go rip them apart. If they're not saying shit like that, they don't get to walk to the ring with you, and I'm talking about every day in your life. And even the voices that are in your head. And I don't care how bad, whatever it is that happened to you, it was, you're going to have to recover from it psychologically. So I want you to kind of like take this little experiment and say, okay, if it was a psychological attack, it's a psychological injury and it happens to everybody. So it wasn't personal. So I'm just going to have to, kind of recover from it from a psychological point of view, and then just go about your day from, that perspective. And I think you'll find that it removes a great burden from you, or I hope it does. Right. So I wanted to do a podcast that talked about that and, reminded you of that. And I'm replaying Company of Heroes, the earlier version, because I like that version. And the strategy, I'm using an infantry strategy. And one of the keys to the strategy, no matter what the map or the difficulty of the situation is that you just can't pause in your development and your advancement in the attack. So, you're always building, the newer models, you're always upgrading your various equipment. You're always maxing out your population cap. You're always securing as many resources as possible. You're always building the next level. You're always assembling those troops, and you're always focusing those troops on the resources and the attack that you want it to. Because if you pause for a few minutes in one of those areas, the CPU, the enemy, will not. And eventually you'll just be overcome. You'll be overwhelmed. So I realized, okay, that's a good strategy for life too. That's a good strategy for using technology as well. So, I'm here doing a podcast with, not being, the most prepared or anything like that. And I think it's got a lot of credibility to it, certainly over, some of these like CNN presentations, which is essentially, I'm looking for the right words. I'm looking for the right words to describe. And I just really can't find them. It's just like a gossip network where they're just trying to find fault with people. It's really quite horrible, that this junior high school gossip is what they want to use to make or break an individual, and it's this retarded virtue signaling, right on line with, the whole Sweden incident, and don't necessarily think that Trump is making any sort of a mistake, right? This could be the master strategy technique, of pulling a Reagan, where you pretend that you're really stupid and you say something that you shouldn't say, and then you just kind of like let people deal with it. So Trump uses that strategy. Like, he exaggerates something. He just mentions something off the cuff in passing that he wants attention to go to. And part of what he does is he like makes the mistake, he like says something a little off or a little over the top to draw the attention. It's like, oh, he made a mistake. Let's look at this. And it's like, okay, well, nothing happened last night in Sweden, but over the last year, crime and rape is, up 400%. And I just tossed that number out there, but I'm sure it's way up there. Right. So now all the femtards are out there on the news programs screaming, no, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. And now the alternative media is, playing the footage and putting the numbers out there. So this is our news cycle in a large way. And you guys, and, we are a part of that. And the mainstream media, when they're talking about fake news, they're telling you that they're the only authority here, that, there's a 90% chance that Hillary Clinton is going to win. They're telling you that whatever cultural values they want to shove down your throat, that's okay. And about the only explanation that I really have rationally been able to come up with regarding the left's behavior is that the corporate interests that they serve have been bought out by foreign money. And that's it. So if the interest group steps forward and says, we're spending, these millions of dollars for this study that says, we should teach the Muslim religion in school, and we should not teach Christianity in American schools, right? Because it's a situation of tolerance. Then the educators in the institution, in the local educational departments, they go along with it, and they're getting kickbacks for it. And then you kind of like put them on the wrong side of the social justice warrior virtue signaling, and you've kind of got them. I remember as a young kid watching the Vietnam War on news and stuff, and it occurred to me, and I'm sure it occurred to pretty much everybody, that it wasn't a technological war. You know what I mean? That if it was just a question of who had the most resources and things like that, America would have won easily. And that when Vietnam came up with the idea of influencing the American media, that's it, that was their winning strategy. As soon as they got the left to go against the American establishment, in a political battle, in a media battle, even though they couldn't win in a military battle, they had won. They were going to win. So I think that this type of a strategy, this type of a mindset is what's going on. At least I think that's what I was thinking when I went down that road. Yeah, that's what I think I was thinking. Last I remember. This is why I need more resources here at the Howard Dare studio. So to do things well, you have to have the right equipment. You have to be in the right environment. So I'm working on that. Man, there are so many, mixers they're intimidating. But I would certainly like to have other people on the podcast. And, I would be pretty cool. I think I would research a little bit. Notice how quickly I put that qualifier right there. I would research. Some. No, I would research it, and I would try to, keep things moving and keep things interesting. And that might actually help me with my production skills, because it would allow me to just say to somebody okay, so how did you become interested in MGTOW? And then I would just let them talk, and then I could then run a slideshow with some violin music and things like that. I could even cut in with my own commercials, right? And it's for just 50 cents a day, you could feed a starving child. This is why I don't watch TV, because I was walking by a TV, and that's the commercial that I got, and it had Alyssa Milano on it. She's pretty hot, right? And if she's gonna show enough cleavage, you know what I mean, and show enough form in the commercial, it's oh, okay, I'll consider it, right? But then they show those pictures of all the starving children. It's well, that's not funny. That's not putting me in a good mood. We could have used those resources to a much better effect, I believe. So, I could run those commercials. but at the end, right, instead of I would direct people to my PayPal account. That's horrible, right? But seriously, though, that's what I'm suggesting you guys do. No, I'm not, because that would be illegal. But cultural appropriation, marketing, tactical appropriation. America is not really made for the individual. I know it used to be, and the principles are that it should be, but it's made for the corporation and the company. And this is why you guys should be on Facebook. Not you personally, okay, but you should have some sort of a income engine out here on the web, right? I don't want to sell t-shirts. I don't want to sell coffee mugs, but I should, shouldn't I? I definitely should, and so should you, right? Not because you're exploiting anything, not because you're so full of yourself, but because the technology is offering you this opportunity. And that's the step to take. And you just advance, just like I was, doing in my Company of Heroes game. Uh, I don't talk bad about Sandman. I like Sandman. I don't think Sandman gets nearly enough credit because he's so professional, and he really did kind of like bring MGTOW through a kind of like dark time when, and I've spoken about this. This is like a cycle, where you invent an industry and it's just this blossoming, new revolutionary ideas and exciting. And then, it becomes more commercial. It becomes more productive. Other sources move in, right? And MGTOW couldn't have gotten a better professional production, fair-minded, regular, consistent, person than Sandman. There's no doubt about it, right? So, and he's so consistent, now. Right? You don't even recognize how consistent the quality is when the quality is always there. You just kind of take it for granted. Uh, so like if you're on a train or and you're moving at 200 miles an hour, you're not going to notice it. But if that train, even if that train's going around a bend, if it does it the right way, you're barely going to notice it. But if something goes wrong, you'll notice it. So you don't notice anything. You barely notice anything on some videos, right? Because it's so smooth and it's, the quality is there and it's so consistent. So I notice those things. You know what I mean? Like I can watch somebody play a song and it's like they didn't make a single mistake the whole way through that song, and they're already moving on to the next song, and they still haven't, they haven't broken anything in their concentration, you know. And it's like they came, maybe there was a difficult moment in the performance or something like that, and it was like, you kind of like thought you might see them struggling for a little bit, but no, they just went right through it. It's like, no, that was probably me just imagining it. So really masterful, performances and things like that. And sometimes the value of something isn't in the value of it at that moment, but in the consistency of the thing. For example, drinking water, right? It's like, well, if you'll, just, yeah, right, drink plenty of water every day. It's like, well, it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but if you'll do it and you'll always have plenty of it, it'll make a big difference. Okay, so moving on from that. I suppose we could, looking through the comment section, do MGTOW have problems with women? I don't think so. Not at all, in my opinion. I'm sorry. It's just the way I see it. I think that MGTOW is the way for the man to go. This idea of being a simpering man who worships women and is like, this is what a feminist looks like, a completely cucked man. No, it's disgusting. It's not good for a man's health either. If you have something, that you feel that you think is important, you need to be true to that, and express it in some way. Because if you go along with some, bitch or some woman, you're like betraying yourself. And it hurts you, even if you don't realize it. Now, I know at work and in public, you have to go along in certain situations. Of course, you do. And you're not just going out there asserting, whatever it is, your will, especially as a young man, that's not appropriate. But you have to be true to yourself. And in playing along with, the system to get benefits and resources from it, you compromise that. And if you forget that you were just playing along, it becomes internalized and you've forgotten. So now you've got this behavior where you're deferring to women, not you personally, man, just saying this can happen, where you're deferring to women and you're deferring to the social, cultural, political correctness. And a part of you is like dying, saying, what are you doing? You don't believe this. So I suppose in those instances, you might just want to like not openly agree with stuff, right? as best you can. It's not easy, but you have to persevere. You have to push through these things because it's a mental kind of struggle. You're not. It's a psychological attack. In other words, when you're waking up in the morning and you're turning on the TV, or then you're going and interacting with people, it's their values and their mindset. And if within their values and mindset you have no value, what are you going to do? You're gonna smile. You're gonna go along with them. You're gonna be friendly, because that's how it is for men, and it's getting worse and worse. And the women just keep like asserting these, mini shit tests all over society, all over the culture, all over the media. That's what these women, that's what these news, that's what the media is doing, right? They're pitching these little hissy fits. Yeah, should I play I can't play the clip, the young girl, resist fascism on Tucker Carlson. It was retarded, it was just some girl on antidepressants indulging her madness, and it's just like, well, my parents went along with me. Oh, my friends always went along with me. Oh, the guys always go along with me. It's like, yeah, but you're retarded and you're just young and just you're overplaying your hand culturally. And she doesn't know it. And you can't really argue with them. You know what I mean? You can't be in a position where I'm going to convince this person of these things. No, that's going to take 20 or 30 years of them living that lifestyle and seeing where it leads. They're not going to be, they've been brought up to believe this stuff. That's why it's so funny when they talk about resisting fascism. This is fascism from the left. And this is trying to limit your mental travel, right? You don't have to physically travel from one place to another, from one group to another. No, you can do it now online. But what if we can restrict the way you think about things, So that's what's going on. It's a hell of a thing. This is, and you need to be in this game. We need, you're needed in this game of MGTOW. Your voice matters all over the world. Maybe some of you are thinking, well, not my voice. And it's like, yes, your voice. And it needs to develop. You need to find it. And you need to put it out there. And you can't be silent. You certainly can't be silent to yourself. You have to be true to yourself. If you lie to yourself just to get along and you forget that you're lying, as I said, it becomes internalized. It starts destroying your health. You start manifesting this weird behavior. You start punishing yourself. You start acting out in weird ways. Be true to yourself. You got to find your own way. Society around you, the women around you, people around you, they're saying to you, go along with us, go along with tradition. And when you're young, you need to, don't be ashamed of that. You've got to do what you need to do to get your grades, to get your jobs, to get along with your family and your friends, of course. And you're going to bond to them, and you're going to develop all these values that you internalize and associate with them. But they don't have those same values necessarily. And you might speak to them and say, yeah, the most important thing is being patriotic. And they'll say, yeah, it's really important. But they're thinking about something very different. It's not a bad thing. It's just the way it is. And then this is part of this whole MGTOW path. It really is, because then the man comes to this realization. It's like, oh shit, those values that I thought were so important, they were just kind of like, they were mine, and people around me were just kind of exploiting them, right? So it causes this great red pill rage, right? But the man was not going his own way. He had not discovered his own way. So that's what this is about. And what a challenge, right? What an opportunity. He was just going to be, a willing slave. This is the male of the role in the biological game. Just this willing, sacrificial animal. He gets laid. He gets to, take care of his sexual needs, and he is used up for resources and as protection, or as a resource to the herd as well, So you're being pushed out to the sides of the herd. Let's say you're MGTOW, right? And you're fired from your job, and nobody likes your values and things like that. You're being pushed out to the, to the edges of the herd. Now, great things can happen out there on the edge, but you can also just die out there too, So you got to be smart. These are just cycles. not personal. Of course, it is personal, but you take advantage of your opportunities out there. This is an evolutionary kind of cycle that happens. This isn't the full explanation. This is just kind of like one angle of looking at it, right? So, on my other podcast, on the first attempt of this podcast, I had graphics and everything set up. Like we'll be right back, and we'll be starting shortly. And yeah, I can still do some of that stuff here on Google Hangouts, but not the same. Much more clunky. Yeah, well, it's easier, but it's also there's less I can do. I don't know. I don't know. But I think it's important for MGTOW to develop certain technical skills, and so that's part of the reason as to why I justify these podcasts, right? Because I certainly can't justify them on any other basis. So that's me trying to tell a joke there. Give me a moment here. The true meaning of MGTOW is having sexy girls pay for your drinks. Yeah, basically, I mean, I wouldn't say the true meaning, but sure, that's part of it, right? We've been living in a system that exploits the shit out of men and just turns them into retarded resources. And if you go along with the system, it's like you get destroyed. It's almost like you can't look at all that you're going along with just to get laid. And as a result, your body just turns into mush because there's like certain parts of the mind that you can't even occupy. That's how I see it. Right. So that's why I'm saying it's a mental game. It's a psychological game. You need to take back your own mind. You need to, so if somebody is shaming you or they're, the way that they're going, and you need to like not deal with that person. Like limited access, you know what I mean? It's like you'll deal with them, but they have no psychological effect or access or emotional access to you. That's cool. There you go. And you need to constantly be developing on this, opportunity, marketing, strength. Because if you don't, those around you will, and not all of those around you have good intentions, and they certainly don't have your interests in mind. And that's not a bad thing. It's not like the universe has betrayed you or anything like that. It's like, no, they're just gonna take care of themselves. They're not gonna worry about you at all. So you can't be all upset about that. Now, at the same time, as a man, you are part of a system that's trying to tell you that that's what's going to happen, that you're part of the group and that we're all equal and we're going to take care of each other, right? But they're not talking about you. They mean everybody except you. They mean we're going to do that because you've been stopping us from doing that for so long, and you're going to go along with us now, right? If you want sex, if you want to be part of this group, and the young man is going to say, well, yeah, I'm sure, I guess. Right? He's going to say whatever he needs to say. And it's a betrayal to himself, and he doesn't know it. That's what I'm saying you need to avoid. Or at least you need to be aware that it's potentially happening to you. So everybody has a different set of experiences that they can offer to MGTOW as well. Obviously, this is my experience. The workplace, politics, things like that, relationships. But, marriage, no. Legal system, no. So all the voices are needed. So, I'm sitting here talking, and there's a bunch of guys over there, in England or UK, and, most of what I say maybe doesn't resonate with them. I know it's hard to believe. I know it sounds impossible, but it's true. But your voice would resonate with them. So if you were delivering a MGTOW message, even though you're not as practiced at it, even though you're just starting out at it, your voice delivering the same message as someone else would resonate with certain men, whereas my voice will not resonate with them. no matter how much resonation I put on my voice. And since, I use the donations that you guys give me to, enhance the thing, with the mixer coming, there will be a lot of sound effects. Yeah, resonance. Something that occurs to me is that the pauses that I think are necessary in a conversation are not the pauses that normal people would think of as being necessary within a conversation. So, these are some of the things that we're working through at the Howard Dare Studios podcasting division. We also have a media division where, I have to collect media sources and be aware of them and share them with you guys and offer my opinions on them. And MGTOW videos is, of course. And there's many aspects to the MGTOW videos. I can come at it from many different angles. So, like videos that highlight the stupidity and the absurdity of women, you know, that's one angle, right? It's like, look at this, like women going crazy in public, with these retarded princess bitch demands and needs, trying to use these feminist tactics. That's, one aspect of coming at these videos. Another aspect, which I'm kind of like looking into is the psychological aspect lately, self-examination. You can't put aside the idea of coming at this also on a regular basis with a consistent message that's positive towards men. It's like drinking water. It's like, well, there's nothing special about this water. It's like, yeah, well, without this water, you'd be in a lot of trouble. And this water is really quite great. You know, so there's all these aspects of it. There's a pure entertainment aspect of it as well, and a media marketing aspect of an entertainment. That I'm very interested in. Because how are you going to survive if you can't develop? Right? And I talk about this because I know it's an important issue, but you know, really smart man with great message, great, ideas and everything like that. But, one video a month. It's like, well, I don't see how that can develop into anything. So there's these multiple aspects of it that have to be addressed. Kind of like your health, right? You have to take care of it on many, many levels. And as a man, your one of your main concern, man, is finances. Is finances. This is why what the feminists are doing and the leftists are doing with these cultural memes and just these attitudes that they put out, they're so damaging to men. And you need to be able to isolate yourself from it or protect yourself from it and still move through and take advantage of the system. I have to go heat up my coffee, people. So give me a moment. I'll be right back. I really appreciate you guys stopping by and hanging out. And I'll be right back. And we are back. So, in line with the things I'm talking about, there's a few things that I've got to do. I've got to start up another website, not another. I have to start up a website simply to basically mirror my videos, to offer text concerning my videos, to offer you guys a place to perhaps post some more complex things if you want, and to simply work with the technology as it exists, kind of like developing your base in a video game of Company of Heroes or something like that. So I highly recommend that you guys seize these opportunities that are before you. Now, in doing this, the thing that is really important to realize is that this process for men has been shamed. In other words, when I say, oh, I want to build a website, right? A lot of you guys hear that and you say, no, Howard Dare is selling out. It's like, and I'm sorry, man, that's just not possible. It can't happen, right? Because if you knew me, you'd know that it can't happen because it happened so long ago. But seriously, that idea, that might not be your own idea. That might be an idea that a woman kind of suggested towards you, or some man that had been under the influence of a woman suggested to him, and then he shared it with you. No, there is nothing shameful about men trying to, make money. And I'll tell you something else, which a really great MGTOW, Zeta X, taught me. There are just a lot of opportunities in this, feminist world. Women don't think they need men. Really? Really? Well, then they're going to have to pay for the services that men used to provide. And women, did you see the woman who took a selfie of herself hanging off of, a large size skyscraper? Yeah, just out today. Consider the lengths that the female will go to get the attention that she wants. So, and it's okay. There's no problem with it. Consider the cultural values that the left would put out. Donald Trump reversed the Obama presidential order of transsexual bathrooms at schools for children. He said, no, we're not going to do that anymore, right? And the news media are like, well, why would he say that? I guess he's not, he's not for civil rights. It's like, I mean, the idea that, he's protecting the sanctity of children just doesn't even occur to them. It's like, well, can't even think of that. I had a point on this. What's this? Staying free. What's up, staying free? It says link is no longer valid. I wonder if he's talking about me. I'm just reading some of the comments here. Buzzkiller says, Howard, I read in California you are required to have consent validated every 10 minutes to defend against a rape allegation. How would you document this? Audio recording, signature. Well, this is why I think there's a market for mini drone video capture. And that would be a series of drones that are following you around and tracking you, with high definition video. And this would allow you to document your own life as well and to put it online. Now, depending on, the things you're doing, like if you're cool and you're doing everything, cool, you can stream it up here to YouTube. But if you're insane, you'll have to stream it over to Facebook. Man, they stream crazy, it's like rapes and tortures. It's like, and they want to put it live on Facebook. Right. So they're appealing to these certain marketing instincts within human beings, group associations, identity politics, and they're manipulating them at some of the highest level stuff, right? Yeah, I told you I didn't share my Zuck the Cuck podcast thumbnail over there on Facebook. I I wonder if somebody like, up at that level is looking personally. You know what I mean? I wonder if someone like Mark Zuckerberg is coming into the office and and saying, give me the stock reports. I want to have a strategy meeting. And it's like, did any of those little motherfuckers insult me on YouTube? you know, this is part of the reason why you have to respect Trump, because he will tweet, right? He will fight back on a Rosie O'Donnell. God, that's disgusting. So you really are looking at a 4,000-year-old matriarchal set of values that are deeply indoctrinated into Western society, into our religion. You know, I mean, well, that's a topic for a different video. So we're fighting against a set of female values that do not value the man. And if you take on these values, and you will take them on, because you will forget every morning, you will say to yourself, oh, it's a new day. It's a great day. I'm going to make the best of it. That's what you'll say. But you're in a covert war, a psychological covert war, where the value of what it means to be a man is constantly under attack, and they want you to go along with it. And the price you pay for going along with it, for demonstrating this, well, is there, you get their acceptance, and if you don't go along with it, you get their rejection. Are you a feminist? Are you a sexist? Are you a racist? Are you a xenophobe? Are you an Islamophobe? Do you not respect the rights of, trans gay people? What are you, gay? Don't you want to have sex with women? You're just going to die off. So these are the, things that they're going to say to you the minute you don't agree with everything they say. So if they say, hey, will you go to war for free and get your arms and legs blown off, and have a horrible life worshiping, some big fat retarded dirty slob who will sleep with your friends, not with you, because that's the way that works. Sorry. And the more virtue you have, the more it's going to bother you, and the better other people are going to get along. So it's a real, conflict for you, and especially for a young person. And you're going to forget. It's just like, this is the water that you're swimming in. You're not going to realize what it is. So that's, the kind of strength, the mental and the psychological strength. And if you can stay focused on yourself and on your goals, and you can keep a good mental attitude about what you're doing, I think you can make some serious progress. And I think you should take advantage of all the opportunities that are out there, and every opportunity to interact with people, to help people, to put out a positive message, and to build yourself, and to build a future for yourself, and to support the values that will, do that for you, that are sustainable into the future. That's what morality is. That's what ethics are. Human ethics, human morality. And that doesn't mean whatever serves you. That means whatever serves you as a human being in the best possible way. So seize the day. All right. What else have we got going on? Checking out the chat. So I'm going to be doing more of these podcasts, and there's going to be more screw ups, like, what we had earlier. But I want to let you guys know that we are making these improvements, and the idea is that we would be able to discuss popular current issues with other important MGTOW, with you guys, right? I have no problem with the idea of just having a podcast with you, the subscribers, hanging out in the podcast, learning how to do things. I think it's a good idea, as a matter of fact. So I'm gonna, but in order to do that, I'm gonna have to go through this process, kind of like a lot of my videos, right? So it's like, yeah, grab him by the pussy. Exactly. Seize the day, grab life by the pussy. It's the same thing, you know. I wonder what the Latin for grab life by the pussy would be. Carpe pussy. Anyway, yeah. So a lot of big serious plans for MGTOW, for the Howard Dare Studios. Now I might be exaggerating, the Howard Dare Studios a little bit, but I find in exaggeration, it enables you to take some of the steps that you wouldn't normally take. And I believe that this is residual shaming tactics from a gynocentric world where men are, because one of the qualities of men is that they do take chances. So if you're shaming what it means to be a man and you're belittling it every time you see it, meaning the society, is doing that, the men are going to stop taking chances. You know what I mean? They're just not going to indulge in that behavior. So we need to guard against that. We need to take chances. We need to use the technology. We need to seize the opportunities. We need to try new things. After all, we are on the outskirts of the herd. Did you see that one video with, Tucker Carlson? Yeah, Tucker Carlson interviewing the author about, the changing gender roles. Yeah, wow, what a spider that one was, huh? Not only is she not happy with the idea that, I mean, what a way to use female values and female culture. It's like, okay, on the first hand, women want all of the resources and rewards of being a man, but they don't want any of the responsibilities. And of course, that's not real. But from a true female point of view, it's like, no, we would like to keep all of the rewards and benefits of being a responsible adult, but we really don't want any of the responsibilities, and it's not fair to the female. It's like, well, she shouldn't have said that she could go to war if she didn't want to go to war. She should have respected the roles of biology. This is why politics and LGBT rights, yeah, they're part of it. They're part of this issue. This is why politics are a part of MGTOW, because politics and culture and the economy is what they're going to use and what they use to attack men. It is a psychological attack. So it's a psychological injury. And you're going to have to be able to bear these things because they do it to all the men. This is the way the system works. You know what I mean? It chews you up the way it chews you up. It throws you away the way it throws you away. It destroys your life, your hopes, your dreams, your future, right? The bitch is after you, but they do it with all the men. And it's not just the physical attack of what's being done. You know what I mean? It's the idea that, wow, this happened to me. And, the system let it happen to me. The people around me let it happen to me. All my values led this to me. How dare you? I hate the universe. And that's the nihilism. And it's like, boom, the minute that sets in, boom, the bitch is smiling. It's like, okay, my job is done. We got him. We got him. Now we'll just sit there and fucking watch the TV and stare off and forget about his whole life now. Now he'll just do that. So it's a mental game. It's a psychological game. And I want you guys back in the game. And I know that you can do it too. And you know that it's the way to go. Right. So like the body falls apart, man. Like you fall too far out of this game. You feel too bad. You fall for this psychological abuse too much. Man, the man just sits there without any hope, without any future, just like going day to day, waking up, dragging himself through the day, doing the job, turning over the money. It sucks. It's horrible. And it doesn't get better. You know what I mean? It just keeps getting worse and worse. But I'm suggesting that it can get better. But you can't, you got to be true to yourself. You got to find your own way. You got to stop going away, being a slave. Now, I know you just can't like stop being a father or stop being, paying a mortgage. I know that. But in this day and age, You need to build yourself up and like find an economic engine and build yourself a legacy. You're not going to build anything based on just your hard physical work and your sacrifice. And those are not even your values. Those are values that were indoctrinated into you and conditioned into you through the system that wanted to use you up, you know? So it's a hard thing, right? These are the burdens of being alive and growing up in any system, right? If you were growing up in another culture, you would have all the values of that culture. And whenever anybody said to you, hey, man, maybe you shouldn't chop off those people's heads, you'd say, what are you, crazy? We always chop off these people's heads. I know it's horrible, but that's what you'd say. So all of these things get burdened upon the young person. Now they're made to give the person structure and things like that, but at the same time, it's like go ahead, laugh at the religion that you're growing up in. You know what I mean? Especially over there, with Muslim Islam stuff like that. That isn't going to work. And eventually, these things that the culture puts on the man, the women are going to go along with it forever. The weaker man is going to go along with it forever. And I don't know if that's the right word to use, but some men are going to go along with it forever. But some men know the burdens are going to become too great, or they're going to, have this awareness, or they're going to always have this awareness, so they're never going to really go along with it. They're always going to be like half-heartedly going along with it. So they're going to be paying this price. And these are the burdens. And it's always been like this, man. Every culture, every society. And if you don't go along with it, they stone you to death. And if you don't go along with it, they cast you out. And if you don't go along with it, they shame you. And if you don't go along with it, they make you wear a red badge. Whatever. So you're at a stage, you're in a situation where you can go your own way. You can find your own way. But this idea of this realization that like, oh shit, this way that they've been teaching me was really, a bit of a con job. And they're kind of using it now and it doesn't serve me anymore. That's a hard realization. Because it's this betrayal. It's like, oh, all these values that they've indoctrinated into me that I bought into, they're not all the best for me. You know what I mean? They're using them to control me and manipulate me and turn me into an idiot. Like, it's working for my own slavery. I'm not getting richer. I'm not getting stronger. I'm not, feeling better. It's getting worse. So you need to face that. You need to, once that awareness comes in, and I don't know. I mean, some cases the man is better off maybe not knowing, but once you've got that red pill knowledge, you need to face it, and then you need to recognize it and start turning it around. And that's what MGTOW and these messages and these videos and these podcasts are about. Just that. And everybody's going to come at it from a different angle. Like all the men are going to offer a different perspective and different experience on it and a different set of skills, right? Completely. I said a long time ago, well, a year ago, no, like 10 months ago, it's going to take a while for me to bring my skills and resources to bear at what I'm doing here. And part of it is just this regular, consistent thing. You know, people don't realize that. Like, why doesn't he just release, like one insightful video a month? It's like, no, part of it is the fact that the person shows up at the gym every day. It doesn't matter that they're not going to necessarily work out every day. I mean, not every single day, but you know what I mean. You're maybe not going to give 100% every day, but you're going to, give every day. So that's important. Yeah. So the donations that come into the channel, I try to use them to, I'm using them to support the channel a little bit. And the ad revenue I just use for myself. And yeah, I have to start up other projects and things like that to expand the Howard Dare Studios. So it's very exciting. And I really appreciate your support, and you guys are definitely a part of it, and things like that. But I'm motivated. I not waiting on anything or anything like that. And these pauses, as I said, they're just me taking care of some basic stuff here, hanging around at the at the podcast center. But I think I'm going to close this up, and I'll be trying it again. I'll be trying it again tomorrow night, no doubt, or the next, with the new setup. Let's see. Let me look at some questions here. What is my strategy? Well, my strategy. Notice I don't even need to say what is my strategy concerning what, because strategy is this, overall arching aspect, not a tactical situation. My strategy is to bring awareness to men about their own value and their own strength, and this idea that the society and the people around them are actually, in many instances, doing exactly the opposite. So it's like you think you're having a great time watching this movie, and this movie is telling you that a 5'2" girl can kick your ass, and this movie is telling you that somebody who's never made any effort at learning something and who just goes on their instincts and is really just a victim, is playing their victim mentality. That's all they need to be a winner in life. And it's like, no, you really got to learn. You got to practice that sword every day. Otherwise, someone else is just going to slap that sword out of your hand so fast it'll make your head spin. It'll make your head fall off. So either you hit the ground running or you hit the ground. That's all. So these are the conflicting ideas that the young men are given. That, oh, you'll be a winner no matter what. It's like, no, that only works for a 5'2" girl. That's cute. That doesn't work for you as a man. That won't work at all. And if you try to use that strategy, it's going to fail miserably. Let me go back to what I was talking about with the burdens that are put on the man. So he becomes this beast of burden with all these, responsibilities, with all these expectations from the society around him. And it breaks his back. It kills him. It destroys him. Sometimes he gets lucky, and he works out just fine, and he has a good life, and he's married, and he builds up, like an empire and a legacy. And that's great. That's kind of like what we're built for. And that's kind of like the thing that we're promised as young men. That's kind of like the carrot that they're holding out there. And it works too, because, it allows you to build this future as well. So it works on many levels, and it puts the man and the woman in this biological role that, has these hormonal rewards and things like that. It serves this genetic evolutionary purpose. And so we're geared towards that. But the system, in order to achieve that, puts all these expectations and burdens on the man, and he becomes the beast of burden, and he breaks down, and he goes MGTOW, where the system just keeps using him and exploiting him and not giving him any of the rewards until he breaks down and goes MGTOW. Or he recognizes that it's going to cheat him, that it's a rigged game, and he's kind of going MGTOW the whole time. And we come into this new stage where, the man is like, fuck this, man. This is a bunch of bullshit. How dare they do this shit to me? And this is the lion stage. No longer is he a beast of burden, but now he's becoming the lion of MGTOW. And it's not easy, and it's real. You got to shake off those values of people that had you as a slave. Does this mean that MGTOW don't like women and that they're gay? No, that's not what it means. Does this mean that MGTOW are hermits who live in caves and don't make any money? No, that's not what it means. It means that MGTOW recognize that they're part of a system that's trying to turn them against their own interests. And now they're going their own way. And they're going to get shamed for it. And maybe it broke you too. I mean, it probably did. It broke me. Life breaks everyone. It makes some of us stronger in the broken places. That's what Ernest Hemingway said. Never, not one of my favorites, but whatever. No doubt a lot of value there that I just don't recognize. So yeah, becoming the lion. That's what we're doing now, man. So, and that rage you feel, it's perfectly understandable, but don't be consumed by it. Don't be destroyed by it. Don't do, crazy, stupid things, But yeah, it's perfectly justified, you know? Like if you were to see some great act of injustice that you couldn't do anything about, you'd feel rage, man. It would sit there and for you for a long time. I know that because that's what happens with the good, moral, smart, rational, good, decent man. You know, he recognizes that those things don't work in the long run. You know, that you have to tie people's self-interests to what they're doing, into their, into their progress, and to how they live. And then you have this engine, this motivated self-interest. Call it capitalism. And then you protect all of that. And you can call that patriarchy, right? And women think that they're the equal of that, and children think that they're the equal of that, and they could walk into any bathroom that you could slap down a 6.5 foot 250 pound man made of muscle, right? It's like, yeah, bullshit, you know. And they think that what, they're not going to get sick. They're going to get sick, man. They think they're going to be effective throughout the day. They're not going to be effective throughout the day. Now you guys know this shit, right? I don't have to tell you this stuff. You know this on a basic level. So with that knowledge, you can prepare, under those conditions, right? Just like if I take a break for even a few minutes in my game of Company of War, Company of Heroes, the other side, boom, that's it. They're gonna they're gonna overtake me. So that's how you guys need to be, man. You need to be ruthless like that. You need to recognize the situation. You need to be independent agents. You need to become lions. And if you don't, man, the ones around you, they're going to become lions and they're going to eat you up. So, and this idea of like, oh, this is fucked. I can't do anything because I can't get laid, or women don't like me, and women don't respect men. It's like, no, women don't respect what men have become, right? You know, yeah. So this idea that MGTOW don't like women, it's like, well, why would you say that? Because the idea. It's like a pussy whipped man. That's all you're dealing with. So when you're dealing with the shame from other people, you're dealing with a pussy whipped man. So don't let it bother you. And you'd be better off living one day as a lion than a lifetime as a lamb, because the lamb is getting slaughtered. At least the lion is able to fight for himself. So that's what you're learning now is MGTOW. And having gone through the burdens, because it's a cycle. You go through these burdens. Society puts these burdens on you, and you either become destroyed by them or you become stronger by them. You get pushed off to the edges of the herd, and now you become the lion. Now you learn to fight for yourself. Now you learn what's important to you. Now you start kicking ass, right? And there's other men out there with you, right, having to do the same thing. So we recognize it. Hey, I wonder, am I coming off into, hey, Traversable, thanks for stopping by, man. I wonder if I'm coming off in stereo. I have to like turn on my own sound here. So I'm going to cut my microphone for a second. I have to like turn on my own sound here. So I'm going to cut my microphone for a second. Yeah, it sounds like I'm coming off in stereo. Oops. Okay, now we're back. Sorry about that. Yeah, we were just invaded by terrorists. Allah Akbar. But we dealt with those motherfuckers, right? It's like, oh yeah, people are really surprised about Trump actually taking action. You know what I mean? It's like, what the hell does he think he's doing? It's a man. He's actually doing things. This isn't right. He needs to check with us and make sure that we approve of everything. It's like, no, bullshit. If we needed to check for your approval, when we check for your approval, things don't work. So we no longer check for your approval. You can tell that's what the media is all about. It's like, what do you mean? He's taking action, and then we're reacting to him taking action. It's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, no. He should be writing a speech, giving it to us. We should tell him if we approve it. I mean, that's honestly what Obama did. And that's how he approached the whole situation. It's towards tactics as well. I was like, we'll be invading Mosul. It's like, really? That's really, these are the constraints that a female mindset puts on these things. So the greatness of our situation, men, is that we are going to be able to get footage from, we can get the real video from real people in the real situations. We don't have to go through the mainstream media. We don't have to go through the ruling political parties of these countries. These people are easily bought off, and you know what I mean? They're independent agents for themselves. They don't have your interests, you know, MGTOW, okay? It's a similar situation. They're only pretending to have the interests that they have so that they can secure the power that they want. That's it. And it's a blind power grab. These are not enlightened people that we're dealing with here. You know, these are people who are using the idea of virtue and morality as a club so that they can seize power. He's a fascist, right? What they're saying is put me in charge. That's what they're saying, you know, because he's a fascist. It's like he did something provocative that made me uncomfortable and nervous. He's a fascist. Put me in charge. People are hungry. People are suffering. He's a bad, evil man. Put me in charge. That's all they're saying. It's like so when the woman's like all uncomfortable and things like that. You know, it's just like a hen sitting on an egg that's making a lot of noise. You know, that's about the level that as a man you can put it as. You know, and there is a sovereignty to your own mind and to your own morality that you need to take back. That society says men don't have. You know, because you're just money making machines who want to get laid. It's like bullshit. No, you have moral, you know, authority. You get to decide what's important to you, and you get to live a life to fulfill those values. Hopefully you take the time to figure out what those things are, you know, and what you do is you check out, you know, like great philosophers of the past is what you do to learn these things, and you take examples from people who are successful in life, you know, not just the people who are going along with it. So yeah, they're pitching fits over Trump. They don't understand what's going on here, and I like it. Thanks for stopping by, Legend. Yeah, I'm reading your message. You know, anytime you want to chat about serious topics and resolutions, be sure to chat with me. Absolutely, man. You know, um, it's got to be a mix. You know, serious topics and popular topics, and you sometimes you talk about the popular topics and you bring the serious issues, you know, to bear on those topics. You know, so there's this balance to build up, you know, the MGTOW media presence and things like that. And like some MGTOW think, well, MGTOW can never go mainstream. It's like, no, not necessarily mainstream. You know, that's not the goal, in my opinion, right? But mainstream as far as helping men, yeah, sure, absolutely, right? This goal of you know helping the individual man deal with a gynocentric system. Look, here, art is a great tool. You know what I mean? Here, I'd like to draw a picture of a giant spider web. Okay, just a vast spider web, and just a little tiny man. You know what I mean? That's it. And the spider web could be laid out on a three-dimensional grid, you know, and it could just be like the grid of a city, you know, and he's just walking into the city. That's all, right? And the women are just thousands of spiders, and the blue pill men are just thousands of spiders. And, you know, he's going to get tangled up a million different ways. So, you know, that's the image, right? So, how do we deal with that? How do we help him out? How do we stop him from getting all tangled up, all turned around, all used up? It's not easy, huh? Seeing as how his own instincts are like pushing him in that direction. So, you know, serious topics, but all kinds of stuff. What else? All right, people. I'm going to end it there. I appreciate you guys stopping by, hanging out. You know, if you like the podcast, please like, share, comment, subscribe, donate. I'll reinvest it. We won't have to redo, you know, one of those incidents. Actually, there's going to be a lot more of those incidents where just weird stuff happens and we have to recover. So, you know, there you go, right? Use that as an example. Okay. So let me know what you think about it in the comment section. Thanks for stopping by, everybody.